the most notorious Nazi officer ever, commander of operations at Auschwitz, the largest extermination camp ever to exist. A man with no morals, no conscience, the man who, without a second thought, killed hundreds of thousands. Hitler's right-hand man and the man who enforced the Holocaust, Rudolf Höss. Höss was not always the monster we know today. Born in 1901, he was lonely growing up. The eldest of 3 siblings and the only boy, he did not have many friends. Going into elementary school, he was lonely, and he believed he was abducted by Romanis. Romanis, or Roma, are an Indo-Aryan group in Central Europe. This experience was believed to be a key factor in his views on other races. His father, an army officer stationed in East Africa, was extremely strict, imposing militaristic discipline to a young Höss. His father made him believe in service to your country, to do your duty. At the age of 14, war broke out in Europe. Briefly serving in a hospital, at 15 he went east, fighting in the 21st Regiment of the Dragoons. He fought in Turkey and Palestine. At 17 he was awarded the Iron Crescent and the Iron Cross, becoming the youngest non-commissioned officer in the army. When news of the armistice breached Damascus, instead of waiting to be captured as prisoners of war, they fled back home, traversing through Romania and eventually getting back to Bavaria.
Höss was always inspired by his father's dedication to the military. After raking in little success finding a job, Höss decided to join the Freikorps in 1920. The Freikorps were a group of extreme right-wing volunteer military units. During his time with the Freikorps, he took part in the Kapp Putsch, named after one of its leaders, Wolfgang Kapp. A putsch, translated into English as coup, is an attempt to overthrow a government. This coup in particular, organised by members of the Freikorps in 1920, was an attempt by the group as well as other right-wing nationalists to overthrow the Weimar government, under which were the main left political parties such as the Social Democratic Party and the German Democratic Party. The coup failed due to lack of cooperation from the public. You see, everyone went on strike and didn't go to work that day. Here we see opposing troops frantically handing out posters such as this, which urged workers to strike on the day of the coup. The title translates to "On to the General Strike." Later in early 1922, it was through the Freikorps that Höss was first introduced to Adolf Hitler. Höss listened to one of his speeches in the city of Munich. He was immediately convinced that Nazism was the way forward. He joined the Nazi Party the same year and officially abandoned the Catholic Church. This was a monumental decision considering his strict Catholic upbringing. Nonetheless, Höss rose through the ranks and was finally assigned to Dachau concentration camp as a staff member. He spoke with Dr. Kaufmann in his 1946 testimony describing his roles at the camp. And then, at the end of 1934, you went to the concentration camp of Dachau. Yes. What task did you receive? At first, I was the leader of a block of prisoners, and then I became a clerk, and finally the administrator of the property of prisoners. And how long did you stay there? Until 1938. What job did you have from 1938 on, and where were you then? In 1938, I went to the concentration camp at Sachsenhausen, where to begin with, I was adjutant to the commander, and later on, I became the head of the protective custody camp. Höss made it clear in his testimony that he was quickly earning respect from his peers, and as a result was appointed to higher ranks of commandment. In May 1940, his improvement earned him perhaps the most prestigious role for a Nazi officer: commander of the largest complex of extermination camps in Nazi Germany, Auschwitz.
Auschwitz was created to incorporate 3 camps into one. It was a prison camp, a slave labor camp, and an extermination camp all in one. Auschwitz has become the symbolic site of the Holocaust, with between 1.1 and 1.5 million deaths, with 90% of those deaths being Jews. Rudolf Höss played an instrumental part in constructing and expanding the camp. As the longest-serving commandant at Auschwitz from May 1940 to November 1943 and May 1944 to January 1945. The thing Höss was notoriously known for was the implementing of the camp's brutal policies, including the extermination of anyone the Nazis frowned upon, such as Jews, homosexuals, etc. Höss also played a major role in the implementation of the final solution, the Nazis' plan to exterminate the Jewish race. Auschwitz, under Höss's command, became the site of the largest mass murder in history, with Höss himself at his trial in 1947 admitting that he oversaw the killing of over 2 million people during his time at Auschwitz. That number is different from the estimated 1.1 million people killed at Auschwitz, so it is assumed that Höss either exaggerated the number or was including deaths from other camps that he had visited/served in. In 1947, the Supreme National Tribunal in Poland heard a trial in which Rudolf Höss was the defendant. Höss testified during the trial regarding his involvement in the Holocaust and running the Auschwitz concentration camp. Höss gave a thorough account of his atrocities, confessing that he had been involved in the Auschwitz massacre of millions of Jews and other captives. He gave details on the management of the camp, the methods of mass murder employed there, and the number of people that died there. Höss spoke in court about his meetings with Heinrich Himmler and Adolf Eichmann, among other senior Nazi figures. He described how his superiors gave him the command to carry out the genocide of the Jewish people.
Höss maintained his innocence throughout the trials, stating that he was simply following orders and didn't fully understand the consequences of his actions. He wrote his biography while he was being held in prison. In it, he stated, quote, "Hitler gave me the order to prepare installations at Auschwitz where mass exterminations could take place and personally carry out these exterminations. I did not have the slightest idea of their scale or consequences." Despite this, the court did not hesitate to award Höss the maximum penalty, a death sentence. On the 16th of April 1947, he was sentenced to death by hanging at the very camp where he murdered millions. Höss's trial and execution were significant in bringing some measure of justice into the victims of the Holocaust, and in demonstrating that even those in positions of power and authority could be held accountable for their actions. Today, Höss serves as a powerful reminder of the atrocities committed during World War II and the importance of never forgetting the lessons of history.